Listen on radio, smart speakers, and our free mobile app, WSKO Syracuse. A Cumulus media station, the voice of the Central New York sports fan. The Score, 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Just me today. Everyone else was too depressed to come on the show this morning. So I came on these airwaves last week and did something that I said I wasn't going to do until later in the season for Syracuse football. And I came on the airwaves and I said, I'm back. I'm fully back in on this team. Turns out, I shouldn't have been. Syracuse football loses a heartbreaker to Stanford last night. Final score 26-24. Stanford in their first game officially as a member of the ACC conference, playing in a conference game in the JMA Wireless Dome, prime time on ESPN Friday night, one of the games of the week. And SU, by and large, kind of lays an egg. Now, I have to give Stanford some credit here. They were better than I thought they were going to be. Hand up. I thought I knew more about what this Stanford team was. I was on the Manchild show on Thursday, and we talked to their play-by-play guy. That interview is still available on the Score 1260 SoundCloud. And he was selling me on, the defensive line and, this receiving core that, is quite talented. And Ashton Daniels is this two-way threat that's going to be a problem. And I wasn't entirely buying it. I'm not going to lie. Now, Ashton Daniels, I didn't think was all that impressive, at least throwing the ball. Made some moves on the ground, could get out of the pocket, but I didn't think he was all that impressive. He threw 2 picks. He only had 178 yards in the air, 22 of 38, or 23 of 38, excuse me. What did sell me was their defensive line. And I'm not going to sit here and say that SU's offensive line looked like a bunch of world beaters, because they didn't. It was a very tough day for the offensive line. Jim, you said it. SU's right tackle not being able to pass block might be an issue. Seems like it. McCord was running for his life the entire night. Thankfully, he looked pretty good out of the pocket for the most part. That 67-yarder to Amari Hatcher was beautiful. Also had a nice one to Trevor Pena late in the game. But the offensive line lost Syracuse football this game last night. Holding penalties, inability to block the blitz. I mean, Stanford was just sending guys left and right, and we had no idea what to do about it. It's a shame. It really is a shame. Pat, with the classic SU fan overreaction. Pat, I know you're being facetious here with the time to fire Fran Brown. I'm going to get into some takes from Syracuse fans I saw on social media in a little bit, because that is something that always comes up as a point of discussion after big losses for any SU sport: football, basketball, lacrosse, any of the big three at Syracuse. Jim, I'm not going to sit here and say the officiating was great last night, but it wasn't as terrible as some people will make it seem, at least in my opinion. But it wasn't great. Wasn't great, but that's not what lost us the game. Offensive line play lost us the game. Inability to stop the run lost us the game. 173 rushing yards for Stanford last night. That's the thing. If it's terrible both ways, I don't have a problem with it. It's still bad, but it's bad both ways. So you can't be that mad about it. Chris Davis Jr. had a nice night on the ground. 9 carries for 79 yards. Had a long of 47. And something else that lost Syracuse the game. Simply put, stupid mistakes. Just high school football mistakes, realistically. We've got Dan Villari running the wrong route. What is that? And Jim, it's hard to run the ball when your offensive line is the way they played last night. But you've got stupid holding calls. You've got guys running the wrong route. That leads to a pick six. You've still got some of the worst tackling by a Power 4 team. SU's had a problem just tackling guys for 15 years. I don't know how a program that has seen as much change as Syracuse has in the last 15 years cannot get one of the main fundamental parts of football down. We just can't tackle. I was really hoping to be able to come on these airwaves this morning and break down a dynamic, powerful Syracuse win over a conference opponent and say this is why Syracuse needs to be in the top 25. This is why Syracuse has a legitimate chance to make the conference championship. All of that stuff. And instead, I've got to come on these airwaves and say that once again, Syracuse football has not fully, because there's a lot of season left, but at least temporarily let me down once again. There's a reason I started rooting for Oregon football back in the early 2010s. It's because I got so tired of the constant disappointment, the constant letdowns provided by Syracuse football, that I said, screw it. I'm out. And yet, time and time again, this team finds a way to drag me back in. I feel so much like Al Pacino in Godfather Part 3 right now. Every time I say I'm out, they pull me right back in. And they did it against Georgia Tech. I didn't buy too much stock in the Ohio game. It's the Ohio University Bobcats. But after the Georgia Tech game, which was not the prettiest of wins, but is a game that Syracuse loses the past few years, I buy back in. We've got the quarterback. We've got the weapons. We've got all the talent. The offensive line looked better. Quint Allen, who laid an absolute egg last night, 8 carries for 25 yards. We've got the skill positions. We've got the defense. We've got a new coach who wants to make you run through a brick wall every single time he speaks. And we lose by 2 to Stanford, a team that in the, quite frankly, stacked Pac-12 last year, won 3 games. Now, they're 2-1, 1-0 in conference after their first ACC game against the Syracuse Orange. We're going to be talking a lot about this game today. I've still got thoughts, like I said, on some of the reactions I've seen on social media, some of the thoughts on Fran Brown, and some thoughts on Kyle McCord's post-game press conference, because I was really quite happy with that. So there's a lot more to come about this game. And, of course, if you listen to the show long enough, you know I love me some baseball. And there was some history made in Major League Baseball this week. So we're going to discuss that as well. Shohei Ohtani and his future and what he means for the game of baseball. Phone lines are open the entirety of the show. I would love for you guys to call in 315-671-1260. Make sure to hop in the chat on Twitch. Make sure to hop in the chat on Twitter, YouTube. It's the Score 1260 YouTube channel, twitch.tv/marker_box. And if you just follow me on Twitter at marker_box, I live stream the show on there as well. But 315-671-1260 for the phone lines. I'd love to hear what Syracuse fans are thinking this morning, because for me, it seems like another in a long line of disappointments when it comes to Syracuse football. Maybe I'll be more chipper by the end of the show, but right now, I'm pretty bummed out about how that game went down last night. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score. Why does this team need to do this to me? I thought this year was going to be different. I really did. Outside the Box Score, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hey, Jamie, I'll throw you on hold and bring you on after the break, all right? Jamie, the FedEx guy, who I just talked to the other day for the first time in months. It's good to talk to him. He's not even an SU football fan. Why do we consistently only rush 3 people? Pat, I don't know, Pat, but I hate it. I hate only rushing 3. Why do we have single coverage on their best receiver who's been torching us? Game on the line. Why are we doing this? Yes, Jim, the Syracuse is a lot like the Mets. Yeah, I am Manor. That guy's good. Like I said, their play-by-play guy was trying to sell us on him the other day, and I can't say I was too familiar with his game. I don't watch a ton of Stanford games. But that guy, yeah, he's a dog. Hey, at least we didn't get any kicks blocked or anything. Special teams was acceptable, I guess, for trying to take any positives out of this. McCord still had over 300 yards. Wasn't a terrible game for him. Nah, Holy Cross doesn't mean anything. The Holy Cross game doesn't mean a damn thing. So frustrating. It's so frustrating following this team.
Bank and a member FDIC.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. Going to jump right on over to the phone lines. We've got Jamie the FedEx guy calling in. Jamie, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing pretty good. So, Mark, I just wanted to start off by saying at least one SU team won yesterday. I went to the Syracuse Mets game with my granddaughter, and they won 12-5, and the fireworks were great.
Yeah, I was in the studio last night for that one. Great game by the Syracuse Mets last night. Got way too iffy there in the ninth. Didn't love Charlotte scoring 3 in the ninth, but yeah, all around very good win for the Mets last night.
Yep, absolutely. So, Mark, my question to you is, because I caught the tail end of that SU game when I got home, the last 8 minutes, they come all the way back, take the lead, and then all they had to do is come up with one stop on that fourth down. I think it was, 4th and 13, and they let that pass get completed. That was horrible.
Yeah, it's the play calling of from last night, both offensively and defensively, certainly needs to come into question. During the break, Pat and I in the chat were just talking about, what we're consistently rushing 3 people. We've got their best wide receiver in single coverage with the game on the line. It's, to me, now, granted, Jamie, I'm no football coach. I have never played a snap of organized football in my life. I am simply a fan who has watched a lot of games in my 25 years. And those things will always boggle my mind why a coach makes decisions like that. Put some pressure on the quarterback. And Pat, I was just about to say this verbatim, Pat. He just said this in the chat. Everyone in the world knew where that ball was going on 4th down. I mean, you could have, I could have called up a family member who hasn't watched a football game in 40 years and said, hey, it's 4th down with the game on the line. Who's getting the ball? And they would have said, oh, the best receiver. They wouldn't have known it's A Manor, but they would have known who the ball was going to. And single coverage and safety's nowhere to be seen. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I'm not saying I could have called a better play, but I might have been able to call a better play. I might have.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So then my other question to you, was this loss tougher for you or the Eagles on Monday night?
Oh, God. Both. My teams the past couple weeks, Jamie, the Red Sox went from playing great to being the most mediocre team in the history of baseball. The Philadelphia Eagles play an absolute stinker against the Falcons on Monday Night Football. And then Syracuse just pushes the knife deeper into my heart, twists it, and rips it out. I'd say this one hurts more because at least the Falcons are interesting.
Yeah.
It's like the Falcons they might not be the best team in football, but they've got guys. You've got Kirk Cousins, who's been in the league forever and has always put up numbers. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a great quarterback by any means, but he's a guy. They've got Bijan Robinson, who's really good. They've got Drake London. They've got guys. So you can see losing to that team. Outside of Manor, and really, I wasn't super impressed by Stanford, and they still got us. So between the two, yeah, I'd say the Syracuse loss is definitely more disappointing.
Yeah, and then I'm arguing the baseball guy. Everyone's been talking. Everyone wants to see Dodgers, Yankees, World Series, Judge versus Ohtani.
It would be a lot of fun as a Red Sox fan who was raised by a Giant fan. That would kill both of us watching the Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series. But no, that's the marquee matchup everyone wants, right? You've got the MVP of each league facing off in the World Series on the biggest stage. I think it would be an absolutely awesome World Series if those two were able to make it. Both of those teams have the same problem though, and that's pitching depth and injuries to pitching staffs. So I don't know how likely it is to happen, but it would certainly be a lot of fun.
Yep, sounds good, my man. You have a good rest of the weekend.
Yeah, you too, Jamie. Always good talking to you.
Nice talking to you too.
All right, there he is, Jamie the FedEx guy calling in. Always a pleasure to hear from Jamie. I'm still just... It's funny because I was about to say I simply don't have words, but I'm just going to keep speaking about this Syracuse football game. And Pat, I was about to bring him up. Oronde Gadsden. I love Oronde Gadsden. I think he's one of the best offensive players on Syracuse. I think going into the season, we all thought he was the best offensive player on Syracuse, except for maybe Kyle McCord. 2 catches, 12 yards. I think he had 6 targets, if I remember correctly. It doesn't say right here in front of me, but I think it was 6 targets. And the usage of Oronde Gadsden last night really made me mad. And Pat, you brought it up as well. He's on special teams. He's all over the place. Like, that's not... We know how to use Oronde Gadsden. We've used him properly before. And in my opinion, the usage of him last night was all sorts of off. And we were running like a lot of like 2 tight end sets and, doing a lot of kind of creative but strange things that this offense hasn't really done in the past when we've been successful. And yeah, just not a great game for Oronde last night. Now, he'll bounce back. Oronde Gadsden is a very, very, very talented player if you know how to use him. And last night was not the right way to use Oronde Gadsden. Now, I will say, if we're looking at some positives from the game, I think it's fair to say that Trevor Pena has officially arrived as a really, really good option for Syracuse because he has had 3 really good games this year. He had 6 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns against Ohio in week 1. And it's like, okay, it's the Ohio University Bobcats. What about it? Then against Georgia Tech, who was ranked. I know they're not that good, but they were ranked. 6 catches, 88 yards, another 2 touchdowns. So they said, screw it. We want to get this guy the ball even more. 10 catches for 101 last night. Didn't find the end zone, but came up with some really big plays. And this guy, we knew about the talent of Trevor Pena, but it was all about getting him on the field, keeping him healthy. And now that he is healthy and consistently on the field, I think it's safe to say that Trevor Pena is going to be a weapon for the rest of the season for Syracuse and a guy that a lot of people are going to be talking about moving forward. The McCord to Pena combination has been absolutely unreal. And I think what a lot of us going into the season, myself included, thought the McCord to Gadsden duo was going to be. And Oronde Gadsden has had 2 really good games before this one. 2 great games. 7 catches, 108 and a score, 6 catches, 93 and 2. So we've seen it, but it seems like the safety blanket right now is Trevor Pena. And I'm fine with that. Umari Hatchers, he looked really good last night. There are positives to take away. Outside of the interceptions, I mean, the pick 6, like I said, Villari runs the wrong route. I mean, inexcusable from Dan Villari. And then the second one, Kyle McCord admitted in his post-game press conference, was very stupid. He's like, I had Allen in the flat, should have just bopped it over to him, probably get a first down, and, keep things moving. Instead, he tries to force a pass. It ends up getting picked off, and Syracuse ends up losing the game. But it's just so frustrating. We can talk about all the positives we want, but we all know that there weren't enough positives in that game last night to convince me or a lot of Syracuse fans that this is the game-changing team we thought it was going to be. Because right now, that's a Dino Babers-esque loss last night. That's what that is. And I preach one thing on this show all the time, whenever talking about Syracuse sports or other college sports. What college head coaches need is time. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Fran Brown stinks and say that he was the wrong hire and that we just hired Dino Babers again, because I saw a couple people saying that online, which I think there might be other motivation behind that. I'm not going to sit here and say any of that because I don't think any of that's true. But what I saw last night was the type of loss that Syracuse had under Dino Babers. What I saw last night was a coach that you can tell has never been a head coach before from the play calling. Now, do I think the play calling will get better? Yes. Do I think that this team is going to stink? No. I still think we got a good squad here. But just not as good as maybe I was starting to think we were going to be after that Georgia Tech win, especially coming off of a bye. At home, Friday night, I heard someone say it was the loudest the Dome has been in years. The best atmosphere the Dome has had in years last night. Yes, I know Stanford was also coming off of a bye, but that's beside the point. With that atmosphere on national television, to do that, yeah, leaves a pit in my stomach. It really does. We got to take another timeout. 315-671-1260 if you want to call in. 315-671-1260. You've heard me talking to guys in the chat this entire time as well. Twitch.tv/marker_box or at marker_box on Twitter and the Score 1260 YouTube channel. Like I said, if you're a Syracuse fan and you want to vent, you want to get some takes off, you want to do whatever, I'm all ears today because I think we've all got some pretty similar ideas after that game last night. 315-671-1260. We'll be right back on Outside the Box Score. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of Central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek. Stone, you're too strong, my man. What are you pouring in a red Solo cup at 11:30 in the morning there, Stone? Something that I wish was in my cup instead of just water? Eggnog. It is September 21st, my friend. Get another month until you start drinking or 3 months until you start drinking eggnog. You're an eggnog guy. I've never heard anyone say that they're an eggnog guy. Naga Hall. Hey, man. You do you, I guess. It's like 78 degrees in Syracuse today, so certainly not a day I would enjoy drinking eggnog. Not that I ever enjoy drinking eggnog. I don't like it at all. Oh, okay. At least you've got a decent day for it. Like I said, it's gorgeous out here. We've had perfect golf weather for like 2 weeks. It's fantastic. Yeah, the golf weather's coming to an end, Jim. Yeah, our aeration starts on Monday or Tuesday. Probably Tuesday. We've got an event on Monday. Played a leather stocking down in Cooperstown this past Monday. It was absolutely gorgeous. I go to Cooperstown twice a year, and I'd somehow never played that course before. It was fantastic. Love Cooperstown. Great town. Like I said, I go twice a year. It's only about an hour and 45 from here, so it's an easy drive. Speaking of Cooperstown, we're about to talk about a guy who's heading there as soon as he retires. Might waive the 5-year rule for this guy. They won't actually, but Ohtani. Actually, if you could only give one, that's actually a really good question, Jim. That's let's bring up StatHead, shall we? And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. So we were just talking in chat, and which you can be a part of if you go to twitch.tv/marker_box. Follow me on Twitter at marker_box. I live stream the show there as well, or go to the score 1260 YouTube channel. We were just talking because I said I mentioned that I played leather stocking golf course in lovely Cooperstown, New York this past Monday. It was fantastic. Been going to Cooperstown with my dad every year for 17 years, and we had never played there. And we had an absolute ball. And I said that when we came back from break, I was going to be talking about someone who is certainly on his way to Cooperstown 5 years after he decides to retire, and that's Shohei Ohtani, who had arguably, and I'm not going to say I'm making this argument, but there's certainly an argument to be made, the greatest game anyone's ever had the other night. Shohei Ohtani went 6 for 6 with 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 10 RBI, and 2 stolen bases to become the only member of the 50-50 club in baseball history. 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases in the same season. Ohtani's got 52 of each. And that guy's pretty good at this whole baseball thing. But Jim asked me an interesting question. He said if there's only one MVP, is it Judge or Ohtani? And I very quickly said Ohtani, and then I said, wait a minute, I got to think about that. I got to look at the numbers side by side. And really, it is Judge in kind of a wash. And I thought it was going to be a lot closer, but I will say if Shohei Ohtani pitched at all this year, it would still be Shohei Ohtani. But with Ohtani just being a DH, Aaron Judge, you've got a 9.8 WAR compared to Ohtani's 8 flat. Ohtani's got more hits, but only 7. He's also got almost 20 more plate appearances. Judge has got him 53 to 52 in home runs, 136 to 122 in RBI. Keep in mind, Shohei Ohtani hits a lot of leadoff and second for the Dodgers. Ohtani does have those 52 stolen bases, so the 50-50 thing's awesome. Judge has 10, but Judge is 20 points higher in batting average, 80 points higher in on base, 50 in slugging, 120 or so, 125 in OPS, and about 40, or not quite 40, but 15 or 35 in OPS plus. So right now it's looking like it would, if I had to pick one of them, I would probably go Judge. But it's close. It is close, just because you do have that thing where Shohei Ohtani, like I said, first member of the 50-50 club ever. There's only been, I think, 6 guys to go 40-40. And Ohtani now has 50-50. And I'm sorry. But I'm tired of hearing arguments against Shohei Ohtani for being the best player of all time, because it's like, oh, he hasn't, done it as long as Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron. And yes, those guys are on the Mount Rushmore. And who knows if Shohei Ohtani, depending on the longevity of his career, ends up on that baseball Mount Rushmore with the likes of Ruth and Aaron. But for a single talent, a singular talent, that's what we're talking about when we say this guy's the best baseball player. It's not history, which Shohei Ohtani has a wonderful history in his time in Major League Baseball. But it's not just cumulative numbers. It's not just the number of all-star appearances or MVPs. Yeah, is Shohei Ohtani going to win 7 MVPs like Barry Bonds? Probably not. He's not going to win 7 Cy Youngs either. But when you consider the fact that he has a chance to do both, I don't see how you can make an argument against him. This guy has 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases this year. I'm just going to keep repeating that because no one's ever done it. Last year, he went 10-5 with a 3.1 ERA on a bad elbow. The year prior, he went 15-9 with a 2.33 ERA, 219 strikeouts and 166 innings, led the American League in strikeouts per 9 at 11.9, had 11.4 last year. Babe Ruth never did both at the same time like Shohei Ohtani does when fully healthy. And keep in mind, he's putting together this unbelievable season while rehabbing from reconstructive elbow surgery. Now, I've never had a reconstructive elbow surgery, and I certainly was not at the level of baseball player that Shohei Ohtani is. But I know when I had a sore elbow, it didn't feel great to swing a bat. It wasn't the best feeling thing in the world. And that wasn't after a major surgery. And that wasn't swinging as hard as Shohei Ohtani does against guys that throw 95 miles an hour or harder, like Shohei Ohtani does. He's just plain and simple the best baseball player I've ever seen. And for my money, pretty easily, the singular greatest talent that has ever stepped on a baseball field. If they did decide, which they wouldn't, but if they did decide to say, hey, Shohei, we need you to be our starting center fielder for the Dodgers. When you're not pitching, you're also going to play center field instead of DHing, which, like I said, will not happen. But if they did decide to do that, he'd be a pretty damn good outfielder, too. He's got a rocket of an arm, obviously. He can cover a ton of ground because he's super fast, obviously. I think he'd be a pretty damn good outfielder, too. Now, they're not going to do that because you need to try to preserve him as much as humanly possible. But I don't see how you can look at what Shohei Ohtani has done these past 2 years, past 3 years, and say that this guy isn't on a plane different than anyone else to ever play this beautiful game we call baseball. Because, wow, he really does wow me day in and day out. And also, while we're on the subject of between the two of them, Aaron Judge is very quickly putting together a career that went from, well, let's see if he stays healthy, to, oh no, this guy is a locked Hall of Famer. Because he now has his third 50 home run season. He had 52 as a rookie, 62 in 2022, the American League record, and 53 this year now. And for a while, without that 16-game drought, there was a chance he was going to even surpass that 62 number. It's not going to happen now, unless he hits, I guess it could, but he'd have to hit a home run every game and do one of them. And the Yankees haven't had a slugger like this since A-Rod. And we all know what helped him out. But Aaron Judge is quickly entering the conversation, at least, for best power hitter of the last 20 years, post-steroid era. You had guys like Jim Thome, and Ryan Howard had a couple of great seasons in Philadelphia. But in terms of longevity and just pure power, Albert Pujols, of course, in the conversation as well. I think the list starts and stops with Aaron Judge. And the counting numbers will never be there. He came up when he was 25 years old, was when he played his first full season. He's 32 years old now, and he's 6'7" and 280 pounds. So who knows how long he's going to last deep into his 30s. Maybe he plays out the entirety of that contract he signed and is great the entire time. Who knows? It very well could happen. I'm just saying the odds of it happening are unlikely based on both the results of a lot of long contracts and how guys like him have broken down over the years. But this is a guy that averages 51 home runs per 162 games. Averages 51 home runs per 162. Now, granted, he's only played in 140 games 3 or 4 times in his career. So take that as you will, but wow. Baseball is in such a great spot right now in terms of talent. And just like they always do, they neglect to market it the way they should. And a lot of people don't pay attention nearly as much as they should be, because right now, baseball is in a really, really good spot. And if these two do end up matching up in the World Series, and Shohei Ohtani potentially has the ability to pitch in that series, which they're saying he might, we're in for one of the most fun fall classics we've seen in a very long time. Timeout. Phone line's still open, by the way, 315-671-1260. I would love if more Syracuse fans wanted to chime in and talk about that game from last night. We haven't closed the conversation on Syracuse football yet. Trust me. That conversation is always welcome on this here program. 315-671-1260, or you can talk in the chat on twitch.tv/marker_box. Follow me on Twitter at @marker_box, or go to the Score 1260 YouTube channel. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
It's the last 6 games of the
Yeah, you're right, Jim. Now people are going to pay even less attention, which is great. I have to go get some more water. I'll be right back. I'm back. Yeah, and I get why they don't love the whole live streaming thing. It is it's different to always be on. You know? Like, Wirtz talks about it as like the curtain of radio is sometimes during breaks there are conversations that aren't meant for air. Well, Jim, you could also always go online, score1260.com and score1260 app. Air's there as well. Ugh. I'm still just reeling from this loss. Jim, you played any golf these past couple weeks during this beautiful weather? After the Tech win, I thought, maybe this team is something. Golf games in the dumpster, that's not great. I still can't believe Valari ran the wrong route. It's yeah, Jim. It's hard when you're constantly thinking about the score. Like it's not a fun way to play golf. If you're just setting an expectation that is realistic but potentially not there. And McCord did get rid of the ball very early. But Valari not being there doesn't help.
And conditions apply.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Just quickly want to tell you about our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar and beer of Outside the Box Score. Myers Creek has two locations, the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace, that is the Cazenovia location. And coming up, by the way, actually, I'm sorry, not coming up. It started 20 minutes ago. I knew it was today, but it started 20 minutes ago. Oktoberfest at Myers Creek Brewing Company, an event that I went to last year. Fantastic. And you got to get there quick because $1 off draft beers, but that's only until 1 p.m. So you got to get out to the Cazenovia location pretty quick. Grab yourself a delicious Oktoberfest beer, one of their, or any of their other 15 other beers on tap, because they have 16 craft beers on tap at both locations, Cazenovia and Inner Harbor, and some great music there today as well. Jay Dyer and Friends 1 to 4 and the No Smo Kings. I love that band name. 5 to 8 p.m. So make sure to get out to our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar and beer of Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
So many Volkswagen models to select from this September.
I was doing so well with the brakes. Went on a bit of a rant. It's all good. We're back now. When in doubt, live read. I do blame Josh. I blame Josh for not being here. I blame Josh for being at one of his best friend's weddings. In an absolutely beautiful town in Lake George. At the Sagamore, which is a gorgeous venue. It's all your fault, Josh. I know he's not listening because he's currently golfing. Now, I do know the guy getting married. I'm very excited for him. Yeah, I was about to mention some of the games today when I came back because there's some doozies today. Really fun games today. I think, game day is in Oklahoma for the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. But the real game of the day, the University of Louisiana Monroe taking on the Longhorns in Austin, Texas. Yeah, those teams know how to tackle. Syracuse doesn't. How can you, as a program, for 15 years, not know how to tackle? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Terrible. Oh, Jim, I'm very frustrated. I told myself I wouldn't do this, not until later in the season. And they pull me back in after a week 2 victory. Week 2. I said I was waiting until at least week 6, and I couldn't even make it that far. Yeah, well, the people came to the Dome. It didn't work. The people were there. I wanted to be one of them. I'm thankful that I wasn't. A buddy of mine was. Shout out Johnny Gruninger. He is now 1-8 when in attendance at SU football games. The only one that they won that he was at was the NC State game where Tommy DeVito came in and saved the day. God.
Health, Advocates Inc., and the New York Air National Guard.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Wrapping up a cathartic show. I feel better after an hour of pretty much just complaining about Syracuse. Needed to get some stuff off my chest. Needed to talk that game out a little bit and hear some frustrations from other people. So Pat, Jim, Stoned, and Jamie calling in. It was one of those days where you just needed to let it all out. And I did that. I feel better. Next week, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about a potential Syracuse win. We're going to be happier talking about Syracuse football. Maybe, but hopefully. And everything will be good. Just take deep breaths and enjoy the time until SU football plays again, because there's always a chance that you will not enjoy SU actually playing football. A couple of really good games in college football today. Tennessee at Oklahoma at 7:30, and we've got the earlier great game, USC going to the Big House in Ann Arbor to take on Michigan. Some other ACC games happening today, by the way, since we're always curious about that. James Madison playing North Carolina. That's at 12 p.m. on the ACC network. Georgia Tech taking on Louisville. Let's see if Georgia Tech can bounce back and potentially take down a ranked Louisville team. That would make us feel better about that win, wouldn't it? Huh? Pitt's taking on Youngstown State. TCU and SMU. That's at 5 on the CW. And number 8 Miami taking on South Florida at 7 p.m. Florida State looking to bounce back as well. They've got Cal going into Tallahassee. 3-0 Cal against 0-3 Florida State. Florida State's really bad, and it's kind of funny. DJU still the quarterback, so I think that means things aren't going to get much better in Tallahassee. But full ACC slate today after Stanford's victory against the Syracuse Orange last night at the JMA Wireless Dome, 26-24. Like I said, hopefully next week will be more positive in terms of hyping up this team in a very winnable game coming up against Holy Cross. That's going to do it for the show this week. We'll be back same time, same channel next week, 11 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. Hope to see you then. Peace out.